Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 13th, 2024 at approximately 4:26 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide my virtually every movement by. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people with varying degrees of success depending on their own level of effort. With this in mind, now I'm going to be broaching a subject today that is, to say the least, riddled with potential controversy. So, a couple of ground rules beyond what's already there. When I talk about rules applying to everybody, this means myself, moderators, and the listener, guests, whoever is in the chat room. Whether you're a moderator or not, whether you're a newcomer or you've been here for a while, all the rules still apply. Okay, because what we're opening the door on is a dangerous issue. Now, remember I mentioned I will not say one political system is better than another. I'm not about to do that now either. We are talking about a one world government and what that really looks like. Okay, from my perspective. Now, before we get into it, we do have a couple of basic things to run through. We have LA in with the gold. How you doing, LA? Hopefully things are going well for you. And we have Shadow in with the silver. Shadow and Sun, and let's see if we can find what I'm looking for. That is not what I'm looking for. There it is. This is the link to Shadow and Sun's live stream. So drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, absolutely give him a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. Okay, because it is literally by sharing these links, by working together, that we can turn this world around. Because I don't know about you, but with the research I've been doing, yes, I said that four-letter word. That research thing that I don't technically do. But that doesn't mean I don't notice things. Now, we have coming in with the bronze is Storm and Shadow. How you doing there, Storm? Glad you could join us. And we have Eternity Eternal with the honorable mention. Hopefully your day's been going well. You've been getting here early lately, Eternity. It's nice to see. And we have, let's see here, lost track. We have Kara Ava showing up in the chat room. How's it going, Kara? Hopefully things are going well. I know that life is getting very hectic for people. We are all facing all kinds of neat little annoyances. And Joe, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I'm presuming things are still as active as ever out the back door. There's a part of me that actually envies what you're going through. That would. I think the only envy part there is I don't have a graveyard out my back door. I just have dead people walking through my house. But now, because, like I said, I was going to cover a few things that are additional little issues. Now, I know people are going to come up with some viewpoints of their own. Okay, so we clear a couple of things out of the way. If any, people have to be able, you've got to feel safe stating your opinion. Absolutely. But remember, the only person in here that literally is of paramount issue is, and this is going to sound real egocentric, me. I decide I've had enough. I just close the door and walk away. Okay, not intending on doing that. If I were intending on doing that, I wouldn't have opened the door in the first place. Okay, so with that in mind, Absolutely state your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. For pity's sakes, don't take my word for it. But understand, if anybody starts filling the chat room up with as in spamming, I've been told it's called spamming the chat room, so nobody else can get a word in edgewise. You will end up you'll get a warning once, okay, and a one-time warning, no matter how long you've been in the room, whether you're brand new, you've been here forever. Okay, one warning. That warning will be a 5-minute ban where you can't say a thing. Okay, you'll still be able to hear, you'll still be able to listen. The idea here is to make this a safe room for everybody. I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me. Okay, it just doesn't work that way. The second warning, it's not 3 strikes, you're out. One warning, second one, you get tossed. It's that simple. Now, this does not mean you won't be let back into the room on another day. It just means that you will be gone for the night. So keep that in mind. Some people, you're going to get a little wound up. This much I'm expecting. Lord knows I get a little wound up on occasion. So I mean, from that standpoint, do understand these rules apply to everybody. Everybody in the chat room, whether you've got a wrench or not, doesn't matter to me. Okay, because every one of you is of equal value. Okay, and I absolutely appreciate the support and the input that I've received from people. Steve, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Just because, and I'll do this a couple of times, the reason I'm not getting right into things right off the bat is because I know there's going to be questions. Okay, now understand, when I'm talking one world government, I am not referring to a dictatorship or a one ruler government. I'm referring to a one world government. Okay, and as I pointed out before, essentially the way the UN was set up is actually a workable model where you've got representatives from different parts of the world, different temperature zones. Okay, because I'll guarantee one thing, and I don't guarantee much, but if you grew up in a rainforest, you're going to know jack about the problems that you're likely to face on the desert. Okay, at least in the Arctic and the desert have similar commodities aside from temperature. But again, if you're facing a terrain where you're used to dealing with 40 below, and your warm days are 10 below, if you're all of a sudden kind of cast into a world where it's 40 above on a cool day, you're not going to know how to cope. Okay, and this is why one person making all the rules doesn't work. Okay, now Joe here is gone. I heard a man's voice screaming, and I kid you not, it was coming from my emergency weather radio this morning. But other than that, I was outside in the sun most of the day collecting wood. Well, I don't doubt that it was coming over the weather radio. Something you got to remember, Joe, when we're dealing with what people call disembodied voices, they can affect electrical equipment, and thereby they can actually tap into it and get it to modulate enough to hear what they're saying, if you pay attention. But I tell you, Joe, as far as now, you can't be collecting wood for fire at this time of year, or could you? I don't know. But in a one world government, you're talking about people from various different communities. Somebody that is governing a small community, okay, will not have a clue how to deal with the complications that arise in a city. And the one in a city, okay, will have no idea how to handle cattle that have gotten out of the pasture. Okay, they just won't have it. This is why you cannot have one person that is in charge of everything. Okay, now the other side of that is that there's a whole pile of different belief structures. And before we get into anything, I'm going to throw something on the table here that's just going to annoy some people. Okay, let's start with the obvious issue. I'm going to lay out a bunch of things here. Okay, and somebody's going to turn around and go, well, where's your proof? Or why should you believe me? Why should I believe you? Well, here's the whole kicker to it. Okay, my proof is likely to come about 30 years down the road. That's been the usual track record. Okay, pointing fact, in the 70s, I was telling people how the government at that point could tell you not only how much money you had in your pocket if you walked into their building, they could tell you how much of each denomination. I was asked the same question. Where's your proof? I didn't have any at the time. But 30 years later, the government came out and explained how they were doing it. So your proof may be a little delayed. Okay, have I done any research? The entirety of my research is literally life experience, with the sole exception of having just read my grandmother's autobiography, which proves beyond a shadow of a doubt to me the method that is being followed right now isn't working, because it's the same method without exception to what was done literally 100 years ago. If you check the record books, you'll find the same thing was also done 1,000 years ago, assuming they filled out the record books properly. So let's not go to the idea of where proof is. Your proof is in your own research. Okay, and I can go all sorts of places on that one. Now, LA's going, my parents had a concert organ. The thing would pick up all sorts of radio signals. Absolutely. You would have loved the one we had at the church. Our church pianist to make that thing almost dance. But here's the kicker to it. Now, along with a one world government, obviously we have multiple groups of people with multiple different belief structures. Now, I'm not talking about whether democracy is a good thing, or whether communism is a good thing, or whether a dictatorship is. Okay, I will tell you, war is not a good thing. But anytime you strive to change the path that the world is following, people complain about it. Now, the same thing applies to when you take that many people. There are literally hundreds, probably thousands, definitely thousands. There are thousands of different denominations, different categories for different religious views. All of them are, and you're going to love this one, contrary to popular belief, all of them are compatible. But I'm not worried about the religion right now. I'm worried about the government. How do you set a government in motion, or what is going to work? Well, here's the kicker to it. Take a room full of representatives, i.e. the UN. Now, they did a couple of things that was absolutely brilliant. Put a whole bunch of people from different walks of life. Okay, now, the sad part is, walk of life they missed was they forgot to include the poor people. And I'll tell you, you take a recession, and the rich people will notice it. The people that are struggling to survive won't see it at all. Okay, because the ones that are struggling to survive are still going to struggle to survive. With the UN, most of the people in it, most of the politicians involved in the UN are there because of the fact that they've got money. Okay, or because they're well connected. Now, in a one world government, you still have to take community leaders from the poor areas. Okay, you have to have the leaders of places like Ethiopia in the same room. Absolutely, Shadow. Shadow's going, the government should always be we the people, not we the governed. Absolutely. And in many governmental situations, they start off that way. And then some genius gets into a power position and goes, it's all about me. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, the only thing that's all about me here is the fact that I'm the one that fired up the stream. That's it. But if I didn't have proper backup in behind it, this wouldn't run. We know this for an absolute certainty. Where's your proof? Look at the number of times my computer's collapsed. Okay, and that's just a normal way of life for me. But whenever you're looking at a governmental situation, any law that is put in place, okay, must apply to everybody, including the lawmakers. Okay, and this is why when I say I will not put one governmental agency or one governmental structure above another one. They all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses. But what I will tell you is in order for a government to actually span the world, everybody in the government has to operate under the same laws. Okay. Now it is imperative to have one person that is simply there to simply say, okay, you say your thing, and you say your thing. Now here's a kicker to it. In this room, okay, there is not a way for multiple of you to put your hand up and say, hey, I want to say something. Absolutely, if you're trying to get a word in, I think the best option is put your hand up, as in take that neat little wavy hand and pop it up there. Okay. The reason I like the pink one is because it stands out like a sore thumb. But that way I can deal with questions that are coming in, or if somebody's got some insight in a respectful fashion. Okay. Then absolutely people need to be heard. Okay, and I will do my best to keep that on track. What I won't do is tolerate people calling other people down or making derogatory comments about other people, either in the room or outside the room. It doesn't matter to me. Because we got to remember, everybody running that is working inside a government of any form, every one of them were people before they were politicians. And every one of you that is not in the government is still a politician. Okay, and that's just the reality behind it. I could go into that in more detail, but now I had something written down here that I want to make sure I've still got. Not that. Okay, what is that? I was writing something earlier today. And I'm just seeing what the heck I did with it, which is usually the case. There is something to be said for consistency. What is it? Didn't need that one. Okay, well, I don't know where it went offhand, unless I buried it, which wouldn't be a shock. Anyway, when we are looking at the situation, when we're looking at a one world government, understand the moment somebody says one world government, we have a problem, because people immediately seem to jump to the idea of a dictator. And a dictator is not a one world government. A dictator is a one man government. Okay. Unless that happens to be the only person on the planet, doesn't qualify well. Okay. But we do have to remember that there are multiple belief structures. And right now, well, let's face it, there are I don't know the number, but at least, and I'm just going to put it very mildly, at least, there's at least 7 different governmental types. And of course, you've got all kinds of different types of people that can be in those. Now, if you've got a democratic system where it is running properly and where everybody counts the votes properly and puts the right person in, the person was elected in, it's one way of doing it. Then you've got the democratic version where somebody's buying votes or somebody's just plain not counting them properly. And I'm not talking about legitimate error. I'm talking about deliberate. I don't like that vote. I'm going to take this one because they voted for somebody I don't like. That we don't deal with. A one world government means everybody's vote counts, regardless of what your income, regardless of what your profession, or your age, or for that matter, who you're sleeping with. Realistically, everybody desires, from what I've seen over the years. Well, we will go with bonjour there, Mike. How you doing? Glad you could join us. Just to be clear, Mike, I got no problem with the bonjour. It's another way to say hi. But do understand, I don't speak French. Okay, so definitely where it comes to questions you've got, absolutely for yeah, me either. That works. Where it comes to language, if it's not written in English, the odds are I'm going to miss it altogether. I mean, heck, I have enough trouble speaking English anyway. But there are many different ways of looking at the world. There are many different religions. And here's the kicker with religions in a one world government. One world government does not dictate who or how you worship, aside from no killing babies to change the weather. This doesn't work anyway. Okay. So human sacrifices are a bit of a problem. Okay. Unless you happen to be a cannibal, at which point it's actually considered a shopping list. But in a one world government, this does not mean you have to believe in the same thing from a spiritual standpoint. It does, however, mean that regardless of what your station is, regardless of what your life is like, your value as an individual is as great as the next person. The amount of money you've got in your pocket does not determine your value. Okay? Nor does the amount of land that you own. So, when we are looking at a one world government, you've got a government that is taking all of the people into consideration, not just the ones that are in a different part of the world or in your part of the world. Something we must realize. Oh, okay. Fire there, Mike. Do Grays have... Oh, okay. The answer to your question is yes. Okay. Mike's asking one question before I gotta get back on the floor. Serious question. Do Grays have nipples? What species does? Virtually every species has some form. Correction. Virtually every mammalian, what we qualify as mammalian species, does. Okay. Grays themselves, come to think of it, no. Your gray hybrid will, but the gray themselves, they literally don't. You gotta remember, grays themselves give birth. They literally reproduce through eggs, meaning they don't require nipples. Okay, they don't nurse their young. They feed them essentially a mush. But it is a reasonable question. But no, they are, the reason that I refer to the grays themselves are part of what we call the reptilians. They too have, and bear in mind, they've got, I'm in the middle of documenting it, at least 15 different races, much like humans have at least 7. Okay, but they are all one species, And when we talk about them having a world government, we are talking about them all working for the same, towards the same end. Humans have that same option, but not if we turn around and turn a one world government into a dictatorship or into a war machine. War does not bring peace. What a one world government does, though, is it will encourage peace. It won't stop people from arguing, but it will certainly stop people from attacking each other over a border. Okay, or at least it will discourage them. Now, yes, you can make all the laws in the world that you'd like. Unfortunately, you cannot legislate intelligence. It doesn't work. Okay, it's a great idea, and in many cases, you run into a neat little side effect. But something we have to understand: inside of one world government, people can live their own way outside of the operating building. Inside the building, they have to pick, in order to keep continuity of communication, they've got to pick one language. And this is why in this chat room, okay, right at the top of the chat room, when I first open the doors, I post right at the top 3 laws, okay, that apply to everybody in this chat room. Okay, those 3 laws are the karmic laws. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Each of these is equally important. It applies to the guests. It applies to the moderators. It applies to God himself. Okay. Now, inside the room, those laws absolutely apply. Outside the room, live your life the way you'd like. How's it going thus far? I'm betting dollars to donuts. Most of you aren't happy with the way things are going. Now, the other thing that is pointed out at the top of the list is summary eviction. This means you cross this border, you don't get that one warning. Okay, you're getting the one warning now. Stating any belief structure is better than any other. I'll just toss you out. Okay, the moderators have already been told, I'm not interested in debating which political field, which spiritual field is better than the next. Not interested in it. And I'm not going to let that continue. You can believe what you will outside here. If you figure that the world is flat and that the sun revolves around the world, that's your call. Live your life that way. No problem. But in here, it doesn't work that way. I also will not tolerate political lobbying. Saying, I voted for this person. Okay, telling me, telling everybody else, you should vote for that person because this one's a dip. You may well believe that. In this room, that's a good way to end up with you outside the door. Looking back in, going, but I was just being true to myself. You were. And that's why you're getting the warning now. Okay, and the thing that'll really get you tossed in a hurry is stating anybody's opinion is wrong. Now, granted, the facts they're working with or their perceived facts may be incomplete, may be incorrect. They may be different from yours, but their opinion based on those cannot be wrong. Now, with a one world government, we are looking at taking everybody around the world and going, okay, and this is where your guys' participation is really appreciated. I just need my pen. When we are looking at a one world government, not what is broadcast on major media right now or on social media, in your eyes, okay, what is necessary? What would you feel is necessary? Not what's easy, but what is necessary to help encourage people on this planet to get along regardless of where they're living or what life they've lived through. You've all got shadowed paths. Okay. You've all got things that you didn't and that you shouldn't have done. Okay. You've all got things that you may well not be proud of. As the saying goes, everybody has a skeleton in their closet. In my case, I just only buried part of it. I'm missing one. It got moved. And I don't even know where it got moved to. Well, that annoys me. Sam's gone. My skeleton head got moved. And I don't know where the poor guy went. Did he end up... Oh, there he is. See, everybody has a skeleton in their closet. In my case, I left the skeleton in the closet, but I keep the skeleton with me. And no, we're not going to do the scene from Shakespeare. But everybody's got a skeleton. I'm just not afraid to say I've got them in my own. But let me ask you this. In your eyes, let me just shrink that. No, Mike. I mean, it's real in as much as it's solid. Okay. But this is a plastic life-size replica. Okay. You notice the resemblance? But this is just a plastic life-size replica. It used to have a working mandible. But something happened on a metaphysical field years ago that broke it. But I stumbled across it one day in a secondhand store. What it was doing there, I don't know. Just kind of laying around. But in your eyes, what is necessary? Okay, and I'm talking constructively necessary. Henry, how you doing? Glad you could join us. To start to work towards bringing peace to this planet. Okay, unifying the planet itself. And let's not go with the idea of shooting all the politicians. Okay, because that doesn't work. Well, it would. Understanding every single one of you is a politician. Every one of you. You may not like the term. You may take offense to it. I'm over it. Okay, but every one of you talks to people about things you'd like to see happen, has to organize your own thoughts, has to play negotiator with people. Y'all do the same thing. You just don't do it on as big a scale. So in your eyes, what are some of the things that we can do? And we're going to start working on these. And this is the funny part about it. I am essentially a nobody on this planet. Okay. Very few people have any clue who I am. Okay. And fewer still understand the real ramifications of that. But I am still bound and determined that we should work together. We should start motivating not only this room, but everybody in the world that we come in contact with. Okay. Now, if you think about it, when you look at the fact that everybody on the planet knows somebody within 6 degrees. In other words, you know somebody, they know somebody, 6 levels down the road, that guy knows you. Okay. This is just a statistical statement. And I'll call it fact because it's been double checked by a lot of people. Okay. That somebody else pulled together. But in your eyes, let's start with the obvious issue. What do we do? Whoa, how you doing? Glad you could join us. What in your eyes, and let's call this the world government for a minute. We've got people here from all over the world. Okay, now, just a curiosity thing. I'm up in Canada. I know there's a number of you from the States. Okay, but in the room right now, and what did I do with it? In the room right now, I know that we've got somebody out of Australia here, but what countries are actually represented in the chat room right now? Just a curiosity thing. And rest assured, I have no way of figuring that out myself. The point is this. Okay, I know of a couple, but And we have LA is in New Mexico. Moo is apparently in Antarctica. I didn't know anybody was actually living there. Henry's up here in Canada. Well, Antarctica is a new one. In all fairness, I didn't actually realize anybody lived in Antarctica except the scientists. And Steve is in North Carolina. So clearly we've got a number of people in the States. Guess it's a good thing. Guess it's a good thing that I don't have anything against any country. Okay. The reality of it is I'll be coming down to the States 2 months. Yeah, in 2 months. Actually, by this time, we are now March. Literally, in 2 months to the day is my 61st birthday. And I'll be down in the States for that one. The nice part about it, from my end, is that this is where we start. Now, of course, you got to remember, when the States was first colonized, okay, then the people there came from all over the place. Well, I'm expecting it to be a lot of fun. Henry just says, I think, I bet that'll be a fun party. I know the last party I went to, the last event I went to, was before lockdown. Okay, so of course, for me going to the States, for me traveling is nerve-wracking. For me to go to the States or anywhere outside of my own neighborhood is a challenge. There we go. Oh, Kira's just letting us know 55 days exactly till the party. Okay, and thank you so much for that, Kira. The whole thing is starting here, and this is why I brought this up. Okay, I figure on Fridays and Saturdays, we're looking at how to change your life, how to reclaim power over your life. But today, we start looking at how are we going to redesign society, not how the elites are going to do it, not how the politicians are going to do it, or the spiritual guides, but how we as individuals working together can do it. Because here's the kicker. If you look at the modern society, ultimately, Henry, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Henry's just saying, in regards to the mindset of human society, currently it seems to be consumption of products as a way of life. Absolutely. And, in case you hadn't noticed, with little thought to the outcome. Now, if we go back to before the time the Europeans hit the ground here, okay, the so-called North American Indians had a mindset that said, if we're going to cut down a tree, look 7 generations, 140 years plus down the road to see what's going to happen in the landscape. In today's world, everybody in the so-called modern society looks at it, almost everybody. There are those few that go, are you people out of your minds? Okay. And they are strip mining or they are clear cutting entire banks and then wondering why the ground gives way. Ultimately, that is true, Henry. Now, let me ask you this, because you've brought up a very important factor here. Henry's gone, consuming things like food and water is necessary, but buying the brand new, overpriced, useless garbage every week is how many people live. Now, presumably this means that you yourself are not going down that road. Okay. I upgraded my phone. I upgraded my cell phone because, well, the last one died. But this isn't even state of the art. Okay. But, in your opinion, and again, the reason I'm making notes for this is because we are starting not next week. We're not going to wait till next month. We're starting now. Well, there you go, Henry. And I always appreciate it when people are honest. It makes it so much easier for me. Henry's just going, I'm not immune to it, alas, but I am saving far more than I'm spending. Now, here's a funny little thing about saving. You absolutely should be paying attention to your income. Absolutely. But I will tell you, money sitting in one place doesn't do a lot, but it doesn't care how you feel either. Jumping Jiminy. Nope, not a heart attack. We have to look at the reality of, is that brand new bag actually worth any more than the old one? Think of it. Okay, the two most wasted commodities in this world, and they play right into the political end of the idea of a one world government. The two most wasted commodities are the wisdom of the seniors and the enthusiasm of the youngsters. Okay, now you get to decide, are you a senior or are you a youngster? And I will tell you, okay, I was talking to somebody just a year ago now. I don't even know if he's still alive, but he was 40 years older than I am. He was 40 years older then than I am now. And Henry, that wise man was absolutely right. But here's the kicker. Okay, remember that first little rule in the karmic laws. Be true to yourself first. Meaning, when money comes in, figure out how much money you require. Whoa, that is no fun. I tried it last summer, didn't enjoy it. But when you've got money coming in, figure out how much you require to run your house, to keep a stable roof, stable utilities, and stable food in your house. Okay, then start looking at what you can do to help people around you. That's when you're free and when you've got money that you're able to start spending. Now, time is another issue altogether. Again, be sure you're taking care of you first. Yeah, I appreciate that, Henry. And this is why I say, when you look at those three rules, compare them to whatever laws you're following. And I do believe you will find that every one of your laws fits inside of those three. If you find one that doesn't, absolutely drop me a line, let me know, because I'm still looking for the one that derails it. Thus far, having looked at multiple religions and support structures, governmental laws, different political alignments, you name it, I have seen no law that doesn't fit inside those three. Okay, but what do we do to start getting people to communicate? Okay, now, yes, I've got this stream going. Absolutely. But this stream, let's see if it's changed anything. Again, if I did mention it before, absolutely. Absolutely. If you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. There are billions of people listening to people going, we're all going to die, which, by the way, they're right. We'll go. So what I did was a little test just to see how many people would respond when they thought I didn't have money. And sure enough, they weren't. Well, I hate when that happens. I cannot read that. Oh, okay. When you thought they didn't have any money. Thank you very much, Ellie. I appreciate that. Because I lose that last statement that comes in. Unfortunately, way too many people look at what you've got and decide, oh, you've got money, what can I get from you? Doesn't work. Okay, now, this is one of the reasons why I ended up having to put rules in. I was trying to do things by leaving the doors open and saying, okay, guys, just behave, get along, we'll be fine. That worked like a lead balloon. It floated like a lead balloon. I ended up with a heart attack. Not interested anymore. Oh, woo. Minor correction in thought process, perhaps. In my opinion, you didn't lose friends when they thought you were broke. What you did was found out which ones were your friends. Because friends don't look at your pocketbook. Okay. Or more to the point, they don't gauge what your pocketbook looks like. No, definitely not, LA. I've thrown more people out of my life, or more to the point, just let them fade because they weren't beneficial. Now, this is the message we've got to get out to other people, to everybody. I don't just mean the people in this room. I'm relying on you guys to help me build. And this is going to sound absolutely egocentric. Okay. I never wanted to be in the spotlight, ever. Okay. And I told a lot of people, don't put me on a pedestal. I'm really good at getting off it. And then one very wise gentleman told me, he goes, look, you can't stop people. You cannot stop people from treating you, from putting you on a pedestal. The key is never see yourself as being on said pedestal. Okay. I still am friends with people that have absolutely no money. You're more than welcome there, Woo. From my standpoint, it's simple. If I just treat people the way I desire to be treated, it saves me a lot of hassles. Okay. The reason I don't worry about what name people call me is because I grew up getting called so many. Okay. Some of them were actually repeatable in polite company. But the reality behind it was this: 4 brothers, 1 adopted sister, and 2 foster sisters in a town of 2,500 people, where my father was the superintendent of Sunday schools, and my mom and dad were both block parents. Okay, this is why with us having that many kids, I was used to people coming up and calling me by just about any name under the sun. Even things like Fred or Bob or John. Fortunately, nobody ever mistook me for a woman. Okay. Mistook me for somebody that cared, but, that was another issue. The reality is, I've seen a lot. And here's the kicker for why I am saying we require a one world government, not a one person government. A single person in control of the world doesn't work. In case you hadn't noticed, a single person in charge of a gym doesn't work. Okay. And, what you've got is a massive company. Okay. If you look at the human species as a company, not as individuals, you'll understand a little bit more, at least I hope you will, why a one world government is necessary. Now, this does not mean you all have to have the same religion. Doesn't mean anything of the kind. It does mean if somebody's got a different belief structure, do not shoot them for it. Okay. It just doesn't help. Well, that depends. Okay, that depends on what you consider worse. Okay, there are a lot of species that have a criminal system, like a justice system, that is extremely expedient. Okay, now do understand, I know of some races where your entire idea of how to get a promotion, you determine if this is criminal. their entire species believes that that promotion is accompanied by the termination of the person that holds that position. Now, in human society, we call that murder. Okay. In their society, they call it business. Now, I don't know if you want to call that criminal. Okay. Some people, some species will look at spilling food and on the ground as a criminal offense. Okay. Crime is they're not prejudiced. They're quite unilateral. Okay. Prejudice indicates they look at you and go, oh, you've got pointy ears. You don't have round ears. So since you got pointy ears, you're evil. Or you're wearing glasses, so therefore you're evil. That's prejudice. In the race I'm referring to, they go, I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you sleep with, what you pray to. Doesn't matter. I want a promotion. You're in the way. Therefore, it's absolutely an equal opportunity assassination. There is no sign, there's no word for prejudice in that society. By the way, there's also no word for friend. But, so when we talk about criminal-minded, take a look at the laws. Okay? In most societies, what they've done is they've got these laws that are in place, and they'll go through them every year, and they'll go, okay, that is no longer a law we're enforcing. So it comes off the books. It doesn't stay on the books. On Earth, okay, with human society, laws that are outdated and completely useless are still on the books in many communities. Oh, LA, that's the whole kicker. You desire to be the top of the totem pole? Kill the guy at the top of the totem pole. Now you're the top. Okay. But yes, it does mean you've got a very volatile race. Very volatile species. If you look at human species back in the Wild West, somebody didn't like somebody, they shot them. If they were getting along, if everybody was getting along, nobody got shot. Okay. This doesn't make it right. Okay. And by the way, shooting to get a promotion is not socially acceptable on Earth. Okay. Humans do not shoot each other and expect to get a promotion. Unless you're talking about shooting off people and you get put in jail and you get cared for the rest of your life. That might be considered a promotion. I don't know. But you got to realize that when we are talking about society, we are talking about a society that kills the person above you for the promotion, okay, are literally the people that are looking at the world and they live by Hammurabi's law. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Okay. Where did I put it? Right there. Pulling a blank on a name here. Where are we? Where the heck did the little monkey go? There we are. The Kinlar. Okay. The Kinlar are another race that literally, in the middle of a fight, they will kill each other, okay, in order to get the glory of the kill. Okay. Even human barbarians, the people back then, didn't kill each other to get the glory of the hunt. The Kinlar, if they're going after food, if they've got a war going on, doesn't matter. Okay, you got a platoon of people going out to go to war. And the Kinlar will kill each other so they can come home and say, I did good. I killed the people. Not a great way, but it's not illegal. So they're not actually criminals. Okay. Now, the fact of the matter is, the humans have one thing going against them: highly volatile, and because they are an infantile race, they have a tendency of being very short-sighted. Okay, and you keep trying to talk each other out of actually using your brains. Now, a one world government puts people from every walk of life, every size of community. Yeah, now granted, you take one representative, okay, from every walk of life, every community, okay, we'll leave that at cities and towns, not one person from every household, okay, and every temperate zone, as well as altitude. You take people from environments so they can relate to the problem and people can make educated assessments on how best to deal with things. So, I'm going to put this out there again. In your guys' eyes, what is something we can do as a community, as in what's in this chat room? Okay, or for that matter, the people that are listening in, whether you're in the chat room or not, isn't a big issue to me. Absolutely. Pop your idea into the chat room, into the comments after the video, drop me an email, and one of the methods work. Okay, and again, if you're looking for the free newsletter that I put out, or any of the books I've been dealing with, I've been writing, go up to the top of the chat room, and you'll see the link to buy me a coffee. Everything is accessible there, including booking time with me for personal consultation. Henry goes, well, that's not a bad concept. With our current societal structure, the one world government will succeed only in proliferating and exacerbating the problems we currently have. At this state, Henry, absolutely, I agree with you. Hence the question, what can we do to start turning that mindset? We start with the people around you individuals. Okay, you start with those. In time, it will expand to the other communities around you. Word of mouth does travel better than anything else in existence. Okay, now you think about it. Okay, it has been tried multiple times in the past. Okay, now I will tell you that you are right, by the way, greed is one of the biggest problems. I will tell you though, there is one emotion that drives more chaos into the world than greed ever will. Does anybody know what that one overriding emotion is that even surpasses greed as a motivator? Yeah, I've been there, done that, Henry. You are absolutely right on the money. Fear is the one primary motivating reason why we have everything else. Because greed is a fear of loss. Overweight is a fear of starvation, a fear of lack. Hoarders are terrified they're going to lose something or they're going to forget something. Okay, when you get the people that are making an absolute, they're making an absolute joke of themselves, it's because they are afraid of not being remembered. Okay, fear drives a staggering amount. Now, there is one emotion that is the flip side of fear. What is it? Okay, because right now society is running on fear. Okay, it's running poorly on fear, by the way. Absolutely, LA. Now, if we take a look at love, love doesn't fear. Love understands fear. Love will embrace fear, which is going to scare the heck out of fear, by the way. Watch that happen one day. That was priceless. But society is built on fear. Okay. It's built on and you get the people that will come into a room and they will bombard the place with negative input because they're afraid of not being noticed, is one of the biggest issues. Or they're afraid somebody won't agree with them. I'm banking on people proving me wrong. Okay, I spent 55 years hiding from the world, hiding from life. Okay, and I'm banking that people are going to go, no, you're absolutely wrong. We're going to keep it going our way, and we're going to keep pushing more. We're going to keep pushing greed, and we're going to make this a better world. Thus far, in something in excess of 1,000,000 years, it hasn't worked. Okay, what do we got here? Henry goes, love is the very power of the Lord itself. There can be nothing more powerful, in my opinion. And I'll throw one wrench into that because I had a conversation with what you call God. At least I suspect I did. I certainly had a conversation with what I call God. And no, I do not expect anybody to believe me. Okay. But he himself told me he wasn't the top of the totem pole. There were people that were older than him. Okay. Now, you can do with that what you will. But in essence, you're absolutely right. If we follow the karmic law, okay, those 3 laws, if you follow them, all of the negative things that are happening around you get dampened. I gotta ask, Wu, what, pray tell, is the banana moon? I know what a banana split is, so I'm guessing a banana moon is when it's down to a sliver again. Right now I can't see the moon. Of course, in all fairness, I'm inside a building with the blinds closed. Oh, that is a very, very long discussion, Henry. And I'm going to put this out to you and to everybody that's on the stream. If you desire to talk about that in depth, absolutely drop me a line. Okay, I got no problem talking about it. Am I going to go into any depth here? Not a snowball's prayer. But if somebody that has their own stream desires to go after it, okay, that desires to talk to me about it directly, absolutely bring me on your stream. I'll do whatever. I don't have a problem with it. On this stream, not a prayer. Okay, because let's face it, YouTube has its own rules. I'm not about to jeopardize it. Okay, if you happen to be in Reno, okay, Dave, how you doing? And welcome to the show. And this is Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio. Quite frankly, he's the one, it was his show that really started things moving in a big way in my world. Now, this is the link to Dave's show. So absolutely drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, do give him a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and then share the daylights out of the thing. If somebody wants to deal with the whole idea, I have no problem with that, Henry. The fact you don't have a live stream doesn't matter. Drop me a line. We can set something up. I'll be more than happy to lay it out for you. Okay. The reality of it is, in a one world government, every religion must be permitted as long as the laws that are in place are followed. In other words, your religion may be cannibalism. Most people's religion, that doesn't work well. So my guess is murder is off the table. No eating people. Okay. What do we got here? Oh, there we go. The reality of it is a one world government has to permit all people to have freedom of thought. And that does include what you believe the creator is, who you believe you should be allowed to crawl into bed with, providing it is consensual at a predetermined age of majority. Now, some people mature faster than others. Absolutely. I know people that are older than I am that I still feel are as naive as they get. Okay. Now I do my best to, shall we say, phrase things in a reasonable fashion. I'm not good at it. I'm much better at the direct approach. You know, the one thing that I do tend to the one thing that I do tend to pride myself on is I will give you an honest answer. You may not like it, but, and I gotta ask, well, you've got a question here. Why is that? Sad to say, I don't know what the that is, therefore I can't tell you the why. So if you can clarify that, I'll be happy to fill you in on the why. Yeah, I remember I was out at an event 10 years ago. Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, that's the easy part, Will. Women tend to mature faster than men in the human species because men were designed with the idea of protection and structure, as in they were there to defend and to bring in the food. The women were brought in to design the housing, the medication, your social etiquette. They're the ones that spent their time thinking about more than how fast can we kill the neighbor. Okay. Now, men to start with only worried about the saber-toothed tiger coming through the door, or the mammoth running over your crops. That's what men were there for. They were there to protect. The women were there to think. Unfortunately, both parties seem to have lost their way in a lot of cases. In today's world, and bear in mind, a one world government. Yeah, Christine goes, how fast can we kill the neighbor? See see that here where I live now. Yeah, no doubt. And you notice, it's like I keep telling people, humans talk about, oh, mankind is so good at war. Right. Hello, Desi. How you doing? Humans say I'm so good at war, and I keep asking people, if mankind is so good at war, number one, why be proud of that? Why be proud of the idea that you're good at war? Second of all, and he was a Canadian, and somebody came across the border, and there was an American, and this is not against the country. This was an individual. Come across, he goes, the United States is so good at war. And the Canadian looks at him and goes, if you're so good at war, why was the repeating rifle ever invented? Why not learn to shoot straight? Okay, now that's one person to another person. The country doesn't matter. Okay, in a one world government, every person, no matter what color they are, no matter where you grew up, okay, no matter who you believe in, who you sleep with, doesn't matter. You're all equally valuable. And in a one world government, this must be maintained in a unilateral standpoint. So we go back to that question. What are we as a community going to do about it? Now, I'm looking at the stream. I'm looking at my magazine and going, this is what I'm doing as an individual. But one person will not change the world. Now, one person can start a massive change. The question is, are they going to do it in a positive fashion or in a negative fashion? Okay, do understand, one rock will not bring down a mountain, but one rock can absolutely precipitate an avalanche. Okay, so Joe's just letting us know here, cemetery is acting up like no other. Oh no, your cemetery is acting up just like every other one I've seen. You're just lucky enough to bear witness to it. But I presume that you're referring to it acting up more than usual. Sorry, literal translation. Bad habit of mine. But when we look at what's going on in the world, let me ask you this. Do you yourself as an individual, regardless of what I'm saying, do you believe it's possible, not easy, possible to turn this world around and to start making this a better world for virtually everybody? Is that even doable in your eyes? Okay, now I will tell you, in my eyes, it's very doable. It's going to be a long battle. We did not get to this state overnight. And I'm certainly not expecting it to change before I die. Okay, but Ella has said it is possible. Okay, with that in mind, what are we going to do to accelerate that? And I mean we, as in everybody that's listening in on this. I know what I'm doing. Okay, and yes, I have my days when I look at it and go, is there really any impact happening? Is there any change really taking place? I am not the most eloquently spoken individual on the planet. Matter of fact, I've told more than my fair share of people what they could do with their ideas. Not because, more to the point, not solely because they don't agree with me, but because I can't wrap my mind around how they thought it would work in the way they were doing it. I asked people quite literally, did you even think before you made that move? Okay. I mean, I made the mistake on air one day on Dave's show, on Spaced Out Radio. Somebody asked why he should believe me. And my immediate response was pretty black and white. I went, sir, I called him by name, but I have no idea what his name was at this point. I said, sir, what makes you think I care whether you believe what I say? Okay. Dave was phenomenally quick at stepping in and smoothing the ruffled feathers. Okay. The fact of the matter is, we've got a world here. There is a staggering amount of potential for how well and how prosperous we can make this world. Okay, now let me ask you this. Okay, we got that little problem. Now, here's another one, and I've got an answer for you. But everybody talks about the economy being in the dumper right now. That's always fun. You gotta ask if it's an oddball Christmas. Joe says there's a vehicle out there parked 70 yards out with a lot of red and white lights coming out of it now. Out of it. At least there's not a bunch of red and blue lights. As in the cops trying to arrest the ghost for trespassing. That would be a neat one. But let me ask you this. The economy in many countries is in a shambles. Never mind the country. What is the easiest? Well, no, not the easiest. What is long-term wise the most effective way to rekindle the economy? To ensure that the people are putting the money back into the economy, that the economy thereby can bolster. What's the easiest way you're aware of, or the most efficient way? And I do have an answer for you, which I will give within the next couple of minutes. Again, this boils to anywhere on the world, on the planet. Anywhere at all. stopping price hikes, providing you stop wages and prices at the same time. You're absolutely right. That will help. LA's going food and water to the people. Again, a brilliant idea. Okay, now I'm looking for one other one, but it has to do, just to give you an idea, because both of those work like a charm. Both of them work even better in tandem. Now, let's take a look at your industries. Whatever country you're in, what is the quickest way with an industry to help bolster your economy without creating a massive problem, especially if you lock it in with the above two ideas? Okay, especially when you look at that, there is one way to bring the industry back into a stable point in every country that has it. Now, there are countries that don't have certain commodities, like, for instance, okay, well, productivity is definitely the issue. I'm going to throw something onto the table here. It's going to cost to do it. Absolutely. But what happens if we take all the industries that have been sent to other countries and bring them back where possible to your country? Okay. And then work on the export-import issue to get the products to the countries that require them. What happens to your economy if you bring the corporations back into your home? Okay, what happens to the economy? Well, all of a sudden, the people that are manufacturing the stuff you require are your own neighbors. Now, bear in mind, it's already been suggested, stop the price hikes, freeze your wages, and I realize the odds of that ever happening, not good. Because as was dictated earlier, the big thing is so many people are greedy. They are right now geared towards the here and the now, instant gratification, as evidenced by this new line of medical thinking. Here's a pill, sit on your backside, don't do anything, you'll lose weight. I'm thinking there's a problem with this. Okay, but when we look at a one world government, this is what I mean by move the industries back where they are. For instance, let's take a look at the lumber industry. Now, you've got trees growing in certain places. You put your manufacturing plant or your processing plant next to the freaking forest instead of on the other side of the ocean. And guess what? Your cost of goods has just collapsed. If you're working with a one world government and they do that on a unilateral level, all of a sudden, LA goes, what will happen with people's work that lose the industry? Should new industry be created? Absolutely. But here's the neat little thing. If the industry is, for instance, let's take a manufacturing plant and you pull a wood manufacturing, because the trees are in one area. Okay. They get moved out. If the area has something else to work with. Now, granted, there are complications, and I cannot tell you the answer to all of them. This is why having everybody working together becomes a bonus. But yes, you create new industries. Okay, not the least of which is the country that no longer has the ability to have the manufacturing plant. Maybe they start developing a shipping network where they can have the hub at their end and run it from there. Maybe it's just an option. Okay, but let's face it, there are a lot of industries that have been moved into places where it didn't make any sense. The other issue you got to remember here, and this is why I say the idea of the off-worlders coming down and correcting the problem, you don't want them doing that. Okay, people, if there isn't the work, in case you didn't notice, in every community, if somebody can't find work, Worst case scenario, they pack their bags and move elsewhere where they can find work. Okay, the human race is still to this day nomadic. Okay, it is still geared towards moving to where the work is. So if the industry is no longer there, yes, some people may leave where they are in order to find work elsewhere. Absolutely. But as that's happening, if people treat the immigrants, the people moving into the area, decently, you don't have the problem. And again, you have the other little added bonus. Now you've got two cultures that are starting to mix, and they learn, if they are guided properly, they learn to communicate, they learn to work together. I'm not entirely certain, but I don't think that anybody living in Antarctica, I think for the most part, people living in the Arctic, okay, and people living in the southern states still all put their pants on one leg at a time, given of course that they wear pants. You know, industries do fade. Sooner or later the industry runs out. What happens when a mine is going on and they run out of mineral to mine? They shut the plant down and the people move elsewhere. It's the same thing with every industry. Okay, but when we start looking at people as people, okay, and you don't worry about whether or not they've got the right color eyes or the right color skin, when you start looking at them as people, and this is why I bring you back to that funny little song done by the Carpenters back in 1973 called Up, Up with People. Don't take my word for it, look it up. Most of you know how to get through YouTube. The fact that you're listening in or that you're here says you're already listening through YouTube. Okay, but we have to realize that it's going to take a concerted effort on everybody's part, and we've got to stop looking at the people that are currently in charge as the people to turn to. In case you hadn't noticed, you've been watching them for decades. Okay, many of you have watched these people for decades. In my case, I've watched it for centuries. Okay, and they are still doing the same thing. Now, if they're repeatedly doing the same thing, does it make sense to continually rely on them doing things that work right? Does it make any sense at all? You know, the neat part about it from everything I've seen is that we have an opportunity right here, right now, not 10 years down the road. I mean, it'll still be here 10 years down the road if you do nothing with it now. You know, the odds are, Joe, they really probably can't see you. I'm betting they didn't bring binoculars. And you know, this is going to sound really cold. Okay, I'd lay odds. Yeah, they're certainly looking at something. I don't feel that they're looking at you. I don't feel they've even got any interest in your property. Aside from it's there, so let's park as far away from it as we can. Okay, that basically is what you're looking at. Maybe they're star watching. Of course, in all fairness, I don't know if it's dark where you are. I suspect it is. You know, but when we look at the world, when you start looking at everybody as equal, okay, as just as valuable as you are, that is when we start to change the world. So, as a unit, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about the lack of tolerance? Or for that matter, what are you going to do about the lack of tolerance? Good night, Woo. Take care. Don't forget, lemon and honey works really well in tea. Okay. Give it a shot. Do put your feet up and rest a little. You know, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. The fact of the matter is that when we take a look at the world the way it is, Good start. I personally find raw garlic a little stiff. But hey, to each their own. The thing we have to look at. Okay, the reason I said the honey, or the honey as well, and by the way, unpasteurized honey. The reason I say that is because the honey will actually make it a little easier to take. Lemon can sometimes have a bit of a bite. When we start looking at each other as equals, regardless of income, regardless of orientation, political alignment, regardless of what your hobby is. I used to get told, because I play Dungeons and Dragons, I used to get told that I was going to hell for playing a game. Okay. Now, there were a lot of other reasons I was going to hell, so it didn't bother me too much. Besides that, I figured, apparently with the way I was, apparently I was going to be real bored if I went to heaven, because all my friends were apparently heading for hell too. Some of them faster than I was. Okay. But when we look at a one world government, understand we are not talking about a dictator. Now, let me ask you this. Across the globe, what is the qualification of the best person to put in charge of a project? Okay, this applies to a one world government, planning a birthday party, building a computer. What is the person best? What is the quality of the person across the board? And rest assured, there are no exceptions to this that I'm aware of. What is the quality, or the one quality that is required before you shove somebody into a position of power? It really should have been done a long time ago. I'm just curious if anybody in the chat room is going to come up with that one quality that's required. And yes, I do have my own opinion on it. And I will give it a little time here to see if anybody pops. And then I'll tell you what my own take on it is and why. And again, don't take my word for it. Okay, do your own research. Weigh the evidence. Make your own mind up. It was funny, my father was the superintendent of Sunday schools, and he swore. He literally got me to tell him to commit to reading this cover to cover myself. Okay, I'm in the middle of it. Well, no, I'm not in the middle of it. I'm only about a fifth of the way through, but I am making headway. I can work with that, Henry. And what I say, I don't mean everybody's equal. I mean, everybody is of equal value. Everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses. I am absolutely not the best person to be speaking for most people. Okay. No, but as a friend of mine put, Henry, one friend of mine put it this way: we are not all equal, but there are equalizers. Now, you may not be physically as strong as somebody, okay, but because your brain works at all, you can find, the lever and fulcrum issue works very well to equalize strength, as does block and tackle. Okay, there are ways of lifting more than what you're capable of. There are ways of compensating for now. You're going to say, you said I'm not as intelligent. What would you do if I told you your memory is absolutely as perfect as my older brother's? Now, my older brother had a tested IQ in excess of 180. You know what the difference was for him? It was not his IQ. It was his recall. And you can teach yourself to recall better. I used to have a massive problem with remembering people's names. until I started telling myself I'm getting stronger at remembering people's names. It's literally a matter of re-educating yourself. Now, granted, the odds of you being physically as strong as somebody else, it's going to take a lot of work. Okay. And the reality is that genetically speaking, men are geared genetically on the whole to be physically stronger than women. But I will tell you, I know of one woman in particular that I kid you not, she ever cold cocks you, you're going out for like a light. Okay. But then she's been trained. Okay. You've heard me talk about her before. She's now in the MMA. At least that's where I think she is. That's where she's heading. Okay. But they call her Sweet Maria. Okay, I'll tell you, ever watch her fight? I wouldn't want to get hit by her. But the trick is not to look at people, and this is just a suggestion, Henry, and it applies to everybody else as well. Instead of looking at yourself and going, I'm not as intelligent as the next person. Okay, I like the way somebody put it the other day. I'm not perfect, but I'm doing my best. And that's all anybody can be reasonably expected to do. Okay, is simply to do their best. If that makes any sense. The neat part about it, when you're looking at the way your world is working, okay, take a look at the world and ask yourself this. You deal with people around you all the time. How do you help them see this new outlook, this idea that we can have a one world government that is mutually agreeable, not a dictator? A dictator is not a one world government, it's a one person government. One world means everybody is taken into consideration as well as possible. Now, anytime you have a group of people in an environment, there have to be laws in place to make certain that things are done equally. But the laws have to be put in place to apply to everybody, including the lawmakers. Okay, the amount of money in somebody's pocket, if that is how the law is being laid out, you can bet there's going to be a problem, and it will not be a one world government. With that kind of mindset, it cannot happen. Okay. The fact of the matter is, whether you're a millionaire or you're a pauper, you can only, inside an hour, you can still only do 1 hour's work. Okay. Now, granted, somebody that has a gift with speech can motivate other people. Okay. Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And let us find that little stream here. Pop that up and we find Nathan. And this is the link to Nathan's show. Okay. So drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, do give him a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of it. Okay. Because I will tell you, he's got some great ideas. He and I do not see the world in the same way. But we have found common ground. Now, let me close that. There we go. Nathan, I hate to be the one to tell you, well, no, I really don't. Apologizing for doing your work, for doing your job, seems to be a little overstated to my way of thinking. Think of it this way. You don't do your work, they shut you down. You don't do your work, they'll fire you, net result, no paycheck. One of the things we have to realize is that the moment we start seeing each other as, as common individuals, as equal individuals, we are going to find the world takes a much different turn. Okay. But it's going to require the idea of making certain that you only hang on to the things that are serving you. And what I mean by that, I'm getting rid of a bunch of junk, a bunch of stuff I no longer require. Okay. Now I was quite pleased today. I went down to Wings and I was just talking to a chap and topic came around and all of a sudden I've got a book being taken that I've got to take down to the restaurant for the next time I go. And the guy said flat out, you bring it in, I'll walk down to the bank, get the money for it. So I'm just going to take it with me. But again, it boils down to this. If we're going to build a one world government, if we're going to bring peace to this world. Now, I will tell you, in a rough run, okay, if everybody were to put their guns down, we wouldn't have any wars left. Okay. More to the point, we wouldn't have any wars left where people were shooting each other. People were designed for war. Okay. And they've done very well in perpetuating that idea. But clearly they're not good at it, and hopefully they never get good at it. Okay. We know they're not really good at it because we still have a population rise. Which, yes, somebody did give me the answer to that. But when we talk about one world, we are talking about there are no countries dictated as third world countries. Hate to be the one to tell you this, but even in the heart of Africa, it's still on this world unless I got misled on something. Which means even in the heart of Africa, even in the deepest parts of India, where there's extreme overcrowding, or in the big cities, the megalopolises of the so-called first world countries that are overcrowded, overstressed, overpolluted, you name it, and it probably has an over there. Okay, even there, people are still equal to everywhere else. And that's what we have to start realizing. Okay. Yeah, Nathan goes, it's ironic how when warring factions are forced to stop fighting, they both get angry about it and then say, we have a common enemy. Absolutely. But you got to remember, this is what's been being taught for time almost immemorial. Okay. Virtually every religious leader, every country does the same thing. We want more land. Hate to tell you this, guys. 50,000 years ago, there was well over 10 billion people on this planet. Now, I don't expect you to take my word for it. And I sure don't know how you're going to figure out how to prove it. Okay. But, okay, just saying you're going to have to just deal with that one as you will. They did not have war. They had peace. No greed. No famine. Okay. They had peace. We can have the same thing. All we got to do is realize that you can't take the material stuff with you. Whoop, what is this? You just cannot take the material stuff with you. Back in ancient Egypt, they thought they could too. Needless to say, they buried people with them. Of all things, including their own slaves. Okay, you notice none of them are still walking. Although I swear, a lot. Add this to the mix, and all of a sudden you've got a zombie apocalypse. But when we start looking at people, absolutely, LA. I mean, you think about it. Okay, if you look at the world and you say, I don't have this, okay, how about if you look at the world and go, what do you have? Okay, now, and that's not just to you, that's to anybody. You look at it right here. I've got a bed. Now, my office is set up in my bedroom. I could complain and say I used to have my office in its own room. But we've got to look at what you do have. This is why when I decided I was putting out the newsletter, Positive Perspectives, I decided I was not reporting on the negative side. Aside from bad news section, yes, bad things happen, sometimes to good people, but there's all kinds of newspapers, news outlets, podcasts, radio shows, all kinds of places you can turn to find ways to become depressed, to find ways to become more disappointed in people. I'm not giving you that one through my magazine. Not going to happen. Same as here. Okay, we are not going to talk about how bad the world is and all the things that are going wrong. We know that things are going wrong. But can anybody, I know everybody, you go, say, what was one negative thing that happens? Everybody can call up some image. Can anybody tell me one positive thing, even in general, that has happened today? Now, we know there's a war going on, so we know people have died today. Does anybody know of one positive counterbalance thing that we also know took place today? Although I'll tell you right now, it probably wasn't broadcast. If you focus on what you don't have, you're going to continue to see what you don't have. So the question is, can you think of even one thing of a positive nature that occurred today that you're aware of? Where you got the information doesn't matter. Steve, I like that. Steve goes, we woke up this morning and we were breathing. Bonus. From there, you can move forward. Okay, I do the same thing. I'll wake up and go, hey, lights are on. Guess I can carry on with the day. And I've had a really good day when my leg doesn't buckle when I'm getting out of bed. Now, there again, we know there's always traffic problems. Only LA goes, I saw cars today. Cars give right of way 3 times today. Okay, bonus. Now, I would lay odds. You saw 3. I'd lay odds it happened more than 3 times in your community. And that's just simple extrapolation. Okay, I know of a staggering number. There are always, well, you think about it. Let's see here. If we take 8. Whoop, that's wrong. 8,000 million. Divide by 4 equals that. Divide that by, if we divide that by 2 equals that, and then we have to divide again by 5. We know that we're at least, given our current population, there were at least 2 million babies born today. Okay. Couple on top of that, you have so many things that have happened. Yeah, I mean that's great, LA. LA's going, this community is phenomenally good about traffic and pedestrians. See, when I grew up in Comox, there were 2,500 people in the city, with a crosswalk on just about every side of every intersection. And I'll tell you, people got hit regularly when they were on the crosswalk. So they took to jaywalking. Well, I never knew why they called it jaywalking because they walked all the way across. It was safer. But, we've got, I'm telling you, we got 2 million people roughly born today. Okay. I'd lay odds when you couple all of the suicides, all of the murders, all of the wars, I'd lay odds that we did not have 2 million people die. Okay. Which, by the way, does mean that people are being born faster than they can kill each other. This is not an entirely bad thing. But we are talking about a very simple situation. Simple in essence. Well, yes, Christine, lots of them are being built and born in Utah. And lots are being born in New York. And yes, I did catch the just kidding thing. Okay. If you think about it, we take the 2 million now. Last I knew, there was about 150 different in different countries. So you divide that by 150, and you've got 13,000 per country. Okay. And then it gets broken down. So, and if you take that, if we just look at that from the States, take that 13,000, we divide that by 52. I think you got 52 states. I don't know for certain. And that puts 256 people born in each state. That's where simple math comes in. The reality of it is we have to start looking at this world as what is going right. What are people doing that is benefiting society? This is the problem. Now I look at it like I've got the advantage. I've been in contact with a lot of different races that have a one world government. And this is why I say we are not talking dictatorship. Okay. We are talking about a group of people from around the world working together to get a functional image working that everybody is prospering. Not just the so-called elites, not just the politicians, and not any given minority. And no, we're not going down those roads, but I will tell you, and I wonder if I put that there. Okay. Okay, just to be clear, and I did actually put this into April's newsletter, but over the next number of months, we are going to be looking at the shortfalls and what to do about them in positive perspectives. Okay, about parental, the political, the pedagogical, and the spiritual aspects of life. Like I said, my newsletter, my magazine, and this live stream, I have figured out how to mesh. Okay, and again, both of these are absolutely free. But where the magazine is concerned, it only goes out by direct request. Okay, that's all. Only by direct request. Which, if you go to the top of the stream, you'll find right at the top of the chat, you'll find the link to get to it. Absolutely, Henry. See, there's an old saying that goes, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. The problem is that those that dwell on history have exactly the same pitfall. But you are right. It is absolutely imperative that we as a species learn to do things differently, choose to do things differently than they've been done in the past, or we're going to walk down the exact same road all over again. Okay, some people are recently being faced with a spiritual awakening, the likes of which they're having a lot of trouble dealing with. And I will put it to you this way, because I see this across the globe. If you're having trouble with that, absolutely drop me a line. I will do my best to help you find clarity in the path you're on. I am not the best person on the planet. I am certainly not the most eloquent speaker. But I am brutally honest. And if you bring a situation to me, I will not be looking at you and going, "Oh, you're such a fool. You should never have done that." Okay. I actually told somebody, they phoned me up. They were very depressed. They started off with, "I'm so depressed, I've tried committing suicide 4 times." I looked at him and went, I'd be depressed too. And she goes, "Well, why would you be depressed?" I said, "For crying in a water bucket. You tried committing suicide 4 times and you can't get that right either." I said, "That's just downright depressing." Yeah, it is absolutely critical that we start to find a positive way to look at everything. Okay, because it doesn't matter what's going on. The old saying that goes, and I'm paraphrasing, behind every cloud is a silver lining. Okay. And see, I grew up going behind every shrub is an interesting individual with a shotgun. Okay. Not necessarily quite as positive an outlook, but did get the job done. An interesting way of looking at the world is you turn around and ask yourself this: are you content with what you're seeing? And with that in mind, I asked this earlier, and I haven't really received a lot of solid direction. What are we as a community going to do to stem the tide of negativity that is permeating this world that we are currently living within? Because I'll tell you, it is not going to change if we don't, as individuals, make changes. This is why I came to the conclusion of, okay, what are we looking at in this world? How are we going to take the world the way it is, and in spite of what the past has generated, and in spite of what has been laid out on the table before you, how do we change that feeling from a pauper's dish to a feast of the angels? How do we take that negative, that lack, that sense of lack, that perception of lack, and help people see what a positive future we can have? It's going to take work. It's not going to happen overnight. I'd love to say it is, but the important factor is you take a look at your life, and we started a couple of weeks ago on changing the way you're looking at your life. Now, tomorrow is Thursday, so I won't be here. Let me see here. Friday. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Now, tomorrow, because last week we were looking at the spirit and your contract. Then tomorrow, we're going to be looking at aligning your spirit with your body. Okay. And show you and explain to you how you can take that little piece of information and put it to use. As we help you walk through that, okay, because on Saturday we start looking at the power of communication. So Friday and Saturday we're looking at the individual. On Wednesday, we're going to continue down the road about the material world of society itself. But the mindset is the thing we've got to get turned around. It's the thing that's got to change direction. And you guys are absolutely directly involved in it. This little community right here, this pocket-sized 603 subscriptions. Okay. subscribers. We got 603 here. We've got 52, I think 58 receiving positive perspectives. So we're looking at, you take those 600 people in this, say they're getting this subscription for positive perceptions. It's this little community that is going to start the ball rolling. We are going to grow this to an absolutely monumental tidal wave of change in spite of what you've seen happen in the past. Yeah, it certainly won't harm you there, Joe. And besides that, it gives you, you think about it. Take your dinner upstairs and you get dinner and a movie. And you don't even have to pay cable rates. This is what people don't realize. Cable is a great distraction. The computer is a great distraction. Okay, but life is the thing that we're all overlooking. This is what technology has guided us away from. And I'm telling you, starting with this little 603 subscription group, okay, this is how we're going to start the ball rolling. Okay, now you can look back in history and you can find indications that one individual started the ball rolling. LA goes, I enjoy the front porch. Talk about drama. See, I prefer lack of drama, personally. Because I grew up in a world where gaming worked really well. You didn't like the guy, you pulled the trigger. Problem solved. Okay, by the way, that's really bad in so-called civilized society. But we start working towards making this a one-world community, and society will adjust. The politicians will hear it and pass laws that make it viable. Okay, but it is up to us. Uh-oh. See, we had it good. When I was growing up, we used to take out the weeds by lighting them on fire. My dad was interesting. Now, one of the things that you got to remember, if we as a community start pushing the envelope, start spreading the word that this is possible, that changing the world in spite of what the leaders are telling you, in spite of what the spiritual people are telling you, in spite of what the mega corporations are explaining to you, we can change this to a much better, unilaterally prosperous world. Okay. And it's just going to take effort on our part. Okay. It's going to take a lot of effort. It did not get to this stage overnight. Okay. It got to this stage because we let it. If we either let it by looking at it and going, not interested, it'll be somebody else's problem one day. Well, that one day is now. I'm hoping that I can stick around long enough to see this balance out. Last time I missed the boat completely. Steve, thanks so much for sharing your time with us. I really do appreciate it. And yes, we are down at that point again. It's amazing how quick that went, isn't it? So I will take this time to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with me. Timothy, glad you could join us. No, but you did see something that was interesting to you, Joe, and that's the important part. I will be back again, not tomorrow, but on Friday. Until then, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.